Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So this video, I'm going to have a few medieval cat videos coming up. So the second middle child medieval cat is Duke of Whiskers, and this is the one that's standing up on two legs. I think this is the weirdest one, to be honest. So he's a nice blue colour. He has some like different blue mottling on the back. I went for like more of a stripe pattern, I guess. Yeah, he's fully posable, so he's got a ball and socket armature inside. The tail obviously helps with the balance with the two legs. The cape is removable. It's got like a little clasp here that you can attach on and off, so you don't have to have the cape on. And the crown also, I put like a little bit of plastic elastic, clear elastic on there, just so it's a bit more stable. It just doesn't sit there and fall off. Obviously that can be removed. I've got the blep, it's got glass eyes, polymer clay head and hands, feet, and yeah, so the blue colouring was airbrushed, and I wanted the belly to have a little bit more white coming through. But yeah, he's available in my shop, creaturesandthat.com. Payment plans are welcome, so just shoot me a message and I can tell you how they work. So I really enjoy doing these dolls. I'm definitely doing more, and yeah, so I'm going to come up with some more designs. But if you want to know how I made him, then just keep watching. Okay, so I'm starting out with a aluminium foil core. This is basically acts as like a skull. And then I'm going to be covering it in polymer clay. So I've used Sculpey Original for the clay of choice. It's a softer type of clay. I like working with soft clays. I really like the texture and the consistency of it, but you can get harder clays like Super Sculpey and Sculpey Firm. Sometimes I use Super Sculpey for gums and beigey flesh tones, something that needs a little bit of translucency as well. So I start by covering that aluminium foil with a layer of the polymer clay, and then I can start building up on all the features. So I'm basically going to start sketching out a rough shape of the head, and because this is a medieval cat, it kind of has to look a little bit weird, so I'm just sort of going on a whim here. I had a little design in my head. I'd chosen some yellow cabochon eyes, the pre-made eyes for these ones that I'm going to add to the head, and they're going to be quite wide opened. And this cat was going to be, it's intended to be blue, so I'm going to be airbrushing the blue colour on, so that's going to be towards the end of the video. Alright, so I'm just building some basic features. Sorry, the camera's work's not that great here. I didn't realise it was off camera. Anyway, so I'm building some basic features here, and I have created a little eye well that the cabochons are going to sit on. So I need to, because they're flat backed, I need to push them up a little bit. So they need a little bit of clay just to elevate them a little bit. So I created the little eye wells with two balls of clay, put them on, and sat the cabochons in the same place. So I look at it from all angles to make sure they're all symmetrical and they're sort of angles right on it. And then I can start building some more features to it. So here's where I start adding the finer details to the head. So we sketched out the rough shape before, and then we're starting to add finer details once we start adding the eyes together. So I can start building on that brow line now. I've created some little eyelids using a little worm that I've rolled out. Nothing too fancy for these ones because they're medieval cats, so they have to look a bit weird. Normally I would spend a bit of time doing the eyelids on it, making them a bit thinner, but for this one it's a bit weird, so we're going to leave it weird. And then we can start building on the brow line. So the brows are a little bit pronounced on this particular sculpt. I'm just going with the flow here, so no real plan. And yeah, just building up on those brow lines. And then also building just under the eye area, not too much. I don't want really a pronounced under eye area, so I'm just adding a little bit of clay and smoothing it out with my silicone tool. Alright, so for the ears, I'm going to do quite long pointy ears for this one. So I've rolled out 2 balls of clay and shaped them into a rough pointy ear. I'm then going to add some detailing using my silicone tool to sort of create that little indentation in the ears and smooth it out a little bit. But it is going to be covered in faux fur, so I'm going to go into too much detail to cover this and smooth it all out. So yeah, it's going to be covered in fur anyway. So I'm going to add both of the ears onto the head, basically in the same sort of spot on each side, and blend it in using my silicone tool and my little needle tool as well, just to get that blended in nicely. I also decided to add a little blep to this cat as well, which I mixed up a little bit of paint into the Super Sculpey, which is the beigey coloured one, to create like a nice red one. I don't know, I should have just found some red clay, but it still has like a little bit of translucency to it, so that's why I sort of mixed that paint in. Initially I mixed up too much paint and I just halved it a little bit and added more clay, and I mixed it up and it created a nice red semi-translucent colour. So I made a little blep out of that and stuck it onto the head. And then I can move on to sculpting the feet. So the hands for this one, this doll was intended to stand up on 2 legs. So I wanted to make the leg feet paws a little bit different from the front paws. So basically the first 2 hand paws, I'm going to call them, I decided to sculpt them as an open hand paw with like little scratchy nails. And then the feet, the paws that they're going to stand on, are just like your regular little paws. So I've rolled out 4 bits of clay, all the same size, so they can, when I sculpt them, they turn out the same size, but obviously I'm going to sculpt them differently. So same deal with each of the actual toes as well. I've rolled out equal bits of clay for each toe, which I can then sculpt, and they turn out the same size. So this cuts down a lot of time, in my opinion. A lot of this prep work cuts down a lot of time and makes sure that you're using the same volume of clay to get the same shaped foot. Same deal with the toe beans, rolling out equal parts of the actual toe beans and then equal parts of the paw pads for each individual paw, so they're all the same volume. So the front paws are a little bit different. I'm going to elongate those toes so they're nice and stretched out rather than killing them over like the back paws have been. So I'm elongating those paws and blending it in, leaving a little bit of a gap, and then I'm going to be adding the toe beans to it. And for the nails, I'm going to be using some translucent Sculpey, just a small little triangle shape or cone shape, and I also do a little slit into the paw, which I'm going to insert those little tiny claws into and blend it in. You can actually see the blep here now. So that's a little blep that I sculpted. Anyway, moving on to the armature. So I'm using the smallest size armature, which I think is the 1/8 scale armature. So it's a ball and socket armature. I have stock in my store of these armatures. I get questions all the time about what I use. This is a ball and socket armature. I have coils and also the parts. I am kind of plumb out of the tools apart from the larger size though. I will be doing a restock eventually. I just need to wait until all of my stock is sort of depleted before I do another order. So they will come, it's just we have to wait for them. So yeah, I get questions all the time about these ball and socket armatures. I have them in my shop, creaturesnut.com. They come in coils as well. You can get a full size or a half size coil. So if you do want me to pre-make an armature, just shoot me a message. I have pre-made armatures in the middle size on my website, so you can let me know if you're interested in that, or head to my website to get those middle-sized ones. But this is the smallest one because these dolls are quite small. So I'm just popping them together using my tool that pops the sockets off. Unfortunately, there's one tool for one size, so it's not interchangeable, which is a bit annoying, but so you have multiple tools for each size. But yeah, just working out how this body is going to work and how it's going to stand and function once I put it all together. Okay, then I can start wrapping the armature in my pipe cleaners, and the pipe cleaners is purely for one purpose only, and that's to catch the polyfill that I use to needle felt the body. So I use polyfill to needle felt the body. It's a cushion stuffing kind of thing, and it works really well for needle felting. So I use that because I'm only making a muscle tone, so I'm basically making a form that is going to be covered in faux fur or fabric anyway, so I don't need to use anything too fancy like alpaca fiber, which can be very expensive, and it is a natural sort of fiber, so I try to avoid natural fibers in my work now, unless it's for something in particular like a long fantasy tale or something. But yeah, I like to use polyfill. Okay, so we're just starting the needle felting work now, and I just basically wrap it around the armature and start poking, and that's pretty much the whole process of needle felting for this particular, or my needle felting process, not the whole needle felting as a whole. So I like to cover the whole armature in a sort of a thin layer to begin with, and then I can start building up on the thicker areas like around the stomach, the arm muscles, or any sort of muscle that needs to be a little bit enhanced. I'll do it after I've done the whole armature in a layer. Okay, I can start building up on the stomach area, and the thigh area is going to be a little bit built up as well because it's going to be standing on two legs. So I made that thigh area a little bit thicker so you can see sort of that, I guess that thigh joint stick out a little bit more than normal. Alright, so for the faux fur, I'm going to be using this faux fur that's really, really soft but really, really hard to work with. And then I'm going to be airbrushing it a blue colour. So I went back and forth about actually leaving it white because I did like it white, but I think it was just a little too boring for this particular cat. I had a vision in my head of what I wanted this cat to look like, and it was blue, so I stuck to my guns. I think it paid off, but yeah, I'm starting with this it's sort of a short file faux fur, it's really hard to cut, so I ended up having to go and buy some pet cut scissors, which works really well for this one, so I can't believe I didn't get pet scissors earlier. But I start off by pinning the torso piece together and then sort of trimming it around the extremities, and then trimming off all the excess that doesn't need to be there. So, you know, around the arms and the legs, pin that together and trim it off. And he kind of looks like he's wearing a fur coat at this point, so it looks pretty fancy. Right, so I'm sewing everything up using a ladder stitch and a good quality thread. The thread I use is Gudeman thread. The polyester type, the cotton, is not great. It snaps a lot, so you need a really strong thread to be able to hold the tension on that stitch, so it keeps the fabric stitch closed. I like to use upholstery thread as well, which is really, really thick. If you can get your hands on it. Anyway, I use it a lot for when I'm doing wings. So yeah, I'm just going to stitch the torso piece up with the ladder stitch. And same sort of process for the arms and legs. I'm just going to pin it all together and give it a trim first, and then I can do a big mass sew and sew up the arms and the legs. So most of the time I do a neck area, but this one I don't think I did. It was already sort of there, so I just used the fabric and stitched it up. And also the tail piece as well, which will be the last little piece I stitch on, again using that ladder stitch. Same deal for the tail piece, and it's going to be like a thin wispy sort of tail, so I did the piece quite small. And once everything's been sewn up, I can start by gluing everything together. So I'm using a tacky fabric glue for this one and just applying a liberal amount, not too much, inside that little area where the fabric and the polymer clay meets. I then leave it overnight to dry for, so it's nice and adhered. So about 24 hours I leave it. But overnight is fine, I think. What's that, like 12 hours, I guess. So that is nice and adhered, and I can start working on applying the faux fur. Okay, so I apply the faux fur a little bit different when I'm using this particular fabric. Normally I remove it from the backing, but for this fabric it doesn't cut well, so I end up applying the faux fur with the backing on. It's not the most ideal way. I don't like doing it that way because the seams are quite thick, I find, whereas I can hide it and blend it better when I've removed that backing. But anyway, so once it's done and nice and dry, I can start applying the colour with the airbrush. So I'm using a couple of different paints here. I'm doing a multi-layered blue. So I'm starting off with the lightest blue and doing an all-over sort of blue, leaving the stomach like a lighter, with a bit of that white showing through. I didn't want it as dark as the rest of the body, so I just did a really light coat on that. This took hours to do, and I didn't expect it to take so long, but it took probably about 3 hours to do. So yeah, it does take time to do like full airbrushing coats like this. It took also a few hours to do for my Black Panther that I made a little while ago. But this one, because it's got so many like the different dimensions of the blue, it just took a bit longer, and I wasn't really happy with the way it turned out at the start. I was sort of doubting my my decision, so I just plowed through it, continued, and I'm happy. I'm glad I did it blue, because that's exactly what I was envisioning in my head. And the other two are like a normal colour, so I wanted to do a weird colour. So I coloured the eyes also in the blue as well, and just sort of darkening around the eyes. So I'm taking it pretty easy to begin with, and then I can go and start adding a bit more blue to the rest of it. Okay, so I'm adding the highlights on the back here, just a few little things, and like little areas like inside the ears and a little bit around the eyes and stuff like that. Just things to enhance and those details. And again, brushing it through as it's drying, because if you don't brush it, it ends up clumping together and kind of gets a bit scratchy. So the key to soft faux fur that's been airbrushed is brushing it while it's drying and keeping that that paint from gluing together. So that's pretty much the whole airbrushing experience. It was a long time. So yeah, I do enjoy airbrushing. I think it brings a realness and liveliness to the doll. And I made a couple of little accessories with this one. I made a little cape and I bought a crown, but I attached a little piece of clear elastic to it so it doesn't fall off. So that's kind of making it. So each doll comes with an accessory as well, which I've made. This one is the crown and the cape, which can be removable. So I've fashioned a little chain that I sewed on the cape, which you can take on and off. So you can have him as a king or just a plain blue weird cat. So he is available in my shop, creaturesandthat.com, so check that out. Payment plans are also available, so just shoot me a message and I can tell you how they work. So Claude is gone, so there's only the 2 medieval cats left, so check it out. I will be making more in the future, but obviously not the same ones. But yeah, you can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I do heaps of things on there, like lives and etc. If you want a little bit more, I have a Patreon that I'm trying to upload more stuff to, but I do have a Patreon. And what else is there? I think that's about it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. It helps my channel grow, helps the videos get out. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.